So we're going to create one more type of multi-parameter effect using absolute effects. We're going to create an effect where a light turns on a color, turns off, turns on in another color, turns off, turns on in another color, turns off. This sort of idea is used a lot, not just for colors, but I know a lot of folks like to use it for gobo changes with music, and there are a bunch of other applications. So let's talk about how to set that up. We're going to open our effects editor, and we're going to create a new effect. We're going to create effect 814, absolute effect. And let's talk through this. So the first thing we want to do is we want the light to turn off. So I know that I'm going to want that parameter to be an intensity parameter. I'm going to have it fade off in, let's say, half a second. And I'm going to have it hold for 1 second. So right now it fades off and it holds for 1 second. Well, I know while this is off, I also need it to do the color roll. So I know I need to make this step time shorter than the sum of the fade and the dwell. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this half a second, so that as soon as it fades off, it's going to be on to the next step, rolling in the color while this is off. Next, I want the color to come in. I don't want to give this any time at all, because I want the color to come in as fast as possible while the light is dark. But I want this to hold for, let's say, 1 second. So it'll be a second on, a second off, a second on, a second off. We want this to be red, so I'm just going to tap in our red color palette there. Next, I want this to turn on, so I need to set the level to be 100. Notice when I just arrow down and type in 100, it's going to automatically input a new step for me. So now this is on, and I want this after I'm going to actually set the step time of the previous step to be half a second as well, so that it's going to turn the light off. It has half a second to roll in the color before it turns the light on. I'm actually going to come in here then and change the dwell timing to 1.5 seconds, just to give it a little bit more time. And I need, again, this is intensity, right? And now we would just basically repeat this, right? Turn it off, change the color, turn it on. So one thing that's missing here is the color parameter. So I'm going to go ahead and tap in the parameter tile, and I want this to be able to apply to any sort of color parameter that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to load this column up with every color parameter that I have, so that it'll apply to every light in my rig. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep going. Right? Because if it's not in this column, it won't apply to. Great. So now we have that row assigned to all the different color parameters. So now I want the light to turn off, change color, turn on again. So I'm just going to select action 1 through 3, copy to 4. And it's going to just copy all that work that I already did to the next 3 steps, so I don't have to do it again. Then I just come down here and change it to green, and then I'm going to copy those steps again, or those actions again. Action 4 through 6, copy to 7. I'm going to select green, and I'm going to change it to blue. So this is about ready to test out. But before that, I need to, remember, tell the effect what parameters it's going to work on. So I'm going to come in here to my parameter tiles. I want it to work on intensity, and then I want it to work on all of my different color parameters. So I'm going to throw all of those in there. Let's go into live and check it out. So let me grab my back movers here, turn them on, see how it goes. So sure enough, it's one color, it fades out, switches color while it's dark, fades up. If I want this to snap instead of fade, I just edit it like I would any other effect. So this timing, right, into the zero, into the on and off here, just going to change that to 0. And now it's snapping on, changing color, snapping off, changing color, snapping on, changing color, snapping off, changing color. So using absolute effects and multiple different parameters, we can get very specific and very fine-grained about what we want to have happen to a fixture set and have it ready at the push of a button so that this stuff is always all married together. And the nice thing about it being an absolute effect is that anything that shares intensity and color parameters, this will work on.